right. Welcome to another episode of Can I Say Something? Really excited to be talking to my guest again today. Been through the ringer in terms of the drug war, firsthand experience of why this system is so messed up, but also a sign of what actually could come if you include the right people that, this system wronged and actually make progress for a lot of folks, not just themselves, but a lot of other folks. I'm talking to co-founder of 40 Tons, Anthony Alegrete. Excited to have you on, man. Instead of fumbling and misstating who you are, man, I'll turn it over to you. Let the audience know if they don't know already who you are.
Oh man, well, first and foremost, I'm a father of three incredible children. They are the ones who help me, from day to day, man, continue to, live this wonderful life. And so always want to give a shout out to my three kids. But I am the co-founder of 40 Tons. We're a social impact cannabis brand that believes nobody should be in prison for the plant. My co-founder, Corvain Cooper, was serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole over a nonviolent cannabis offense. And on the former President Trump's last day of office, granted him a clemency. I'm also partnered with L'Oreal Alegrete, who's our chief executive officer. She's an incredible woman, and she represents the mothers, daughters, and wives of the fallen cannabis soldiers. When we go to prison, they're left to pick up the bag. And so we kind of came together as a trifecta. I too have served over the plant. And so we came together and built this brand called 40 Tons to help get our friend out of prison. Through the advocacy efforts of so many, including us, we were able to make 1 + 1 + 1 = 50, and we got Corvain out of prison. And then from there, we decided to continue the efforts of the brand and take the second chance that we were given and pay it forward. And so we now have all these programs and various activities that we do in the industry, specifically and primarily the Level Up Cannabis Career Conference, which is also not just only for cannabis, but for diversity, equity, inclusion of minorities, as well as those that have been system impacted to get careers in corporate America. And we're starting with the cannabis industry, right? Because we know that these companies have a DEI problem, not just in cannabis, but everywhere. And so not to be too long-winded on this intro, but that's pretty much, who I am, what we do. I'm just thankful to be here.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. Now, be long-winded when you need to be. I appreciate that. There's so much to dive into, I think, with 40 Tons. And, I think first off is the name. We've heard it from different stories. There's going to be links to your stories and L'Oreal's and Corvain's and Evelyn LaChapelle's and a few others throughout this episode. So you can click on the link if you want to check out their more elaborative story that we've done on High Times before. So, 40 Tons basically came out of a conspiracy, right? Like it came out of the conspiracy charge. Is that correct? Can you talk about how messed up that is? It's just it almost seems like it's arbitrary numbers that they tack onto these things to make you guys seem like you're monsters when they really have little to no proof.
Correct. Yeah. So first and foremost, 40 Tons, when we were thinking of a name and we were thinking about our branding, we wanted it to be different. We wanted to be able to make a company that actually had meaning, that there was, different entendres for each of the meanings. And so there's multiple meanings to the 40 Tons name, brand, and why we chose the logo in which we did. Also, big shout out to Naftali and Aaron of AVO Brands. They were the ones that helped build this branding that we have today, as well as the rest of their team. So anyways, 40 Tons originally started because the name originally came from the newspaper article read California man sentenced to life in prison for 40 tons of weed, right? And so we wanted to pay homage to that. We didn't want to, basically shit on anybody, right? We wanted to just take what the negative of the past and turn it into a positive. So it wasn't like we were spitting in anyone's face by calling it that, but we wanted to pay respects to our past and show that this is, where we come from and where, this drug war, where people that are still in prison for cannabis today, where all this stuff comes from years ago. So that's where the 40 Tons came from. 40 Tons also represents 40, which was at the time there was 40,000 prisoners still locked up for cannabis, right? And so we wanted to pay homage to that. And then the number 40 in general is big in the Black community. We're a African American led company. Corvan Cooper's African American, and so there's 40 acres and a mule, and that is an homage to the number 40, which is what's owed. And so we feel that the people that have put their lives on the line for this plant are owed a seat at this table within the cannabis industry. And cannabis is one of the last industries where the poor people or the folks that don't necessarily have access can still take part in and potentially grow their generational wealth. And so this 40 concept, this number, was so powerful that we wanted to be able to use that in our branding. The conspiracy, they added everything up and said 40 tons, which was over 100 different people over like 7+ years in various places. And so what they do is they add everything all up, and then they create this one giant number. It was not right. If we were selling 40 tons of weed, we'd have been Pablo Escobar style,
Right?
You know what I mean? Like maybe over 100 people over a 10-year period, that if you accumulated all that, yes, but no single one person did that. Right. And so it's kind of messed up, because the way that the conspiracy laws work is if you sold 1 pound out of the 40 tons, you're responsible for the entire 40 tons. Right. And that's just not right. If you're going to charge based on what you did. Right. If you sold 62 pounds out of 80,000 pounds, then 62 pounds should be what your representation on that case, not 40 tons. It's not fair. And this is how lives are destroyed because of that, because someone plays a very small role in a larger role, and you're now responsible for everything. And when you go to trial, you get punished for going to trial, which isn't fair either, because that's your fair right, the right to a trial.
Right. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Yeah,
no.
Just from your story and so many others, if you try to stand up and prove your innocence, and or don't flip on people, and oftentimes, a lot of times, they'll just get you to flip for facts that aren't even there. And if you go into challenge the system, you get punished for that, and that's not even built into the system. It's just now we seem to understand that it's a spike game with the justice system.
It's horrible, man, and it's the way that they got the mob back in the day. It's the way that they did, big regimes. And so now it's filtrated all the way down to the common street hustler. And it really is a war on drugs, because, many of these people are nonviolent, convicted individuals, but they're receiving sentences as if they murdered somebody.
Right. Yeah, Corvan started with over a pound, and then the third strike, they got him, and it got put him away for life. And the dude never had anything violent in his history.
Nothing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
running a fashion store, right? Sorry, I keep cutting you off, but he was running a fashion store, and you were doing charity work out in Vegas, right?
Yes, I wasn't even a part of it. I hadn't seen anyone for over 6 years. It was crazy. So it's but when they sink their teeth into you, it's very difficult to get out of it. And sometimes, you get these folks that just all they want is your blood. You know what I mean? They don't care. They don't care about the families that they're destroying. They only care about getting a conviction. You know what I'm saying? And then based on the way certain laws are written, sometimes the judges can't even do anything. Even if the judge wants to have sympathy for you, it's tough for them to do it. Right.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, they can do what they want when they want. You know what I'm saying? It's just who they choose to do it for. You know what I mean? And that's where, the unfair advantage comes in.
Yeah, and it's as we know, the disparity and the system is there, and some folks want to argue it still, but it seems pretty damn impossible if you want to be pragmatic about it. It's definitely.
It is. Look at this shirt. Buy weed, wearing that stuff. You should just be buying weed from whoever sells it. That's good quality. But we have to do things like this because typically certain groups are kept out, right? And so we have to push those groups forward, or at least get them to the starting line of where everyone else is at, so that they can even have the access, right? So that's 100%. Why we represent things like this, is because it's about access. It's about opportunity. It's not about we all have the same. In America, everyone says, well, you guys, everyone's all equal. Everyone can go do this and go do that. And they're right. They are. But what's not equal is the starting point.
Exactly.
The starting point, when you're down here and versus up here, you may have the same opportunity to run the race, right? No one's saying that. But how do you win a race when the other person has a 7,000-foot head start to run?
100%.
That's where the disparity is. And that's where, we try to close that gap with 40 tons and 40 tons careers. We try to level the playing field so that people can get access to the same opportunities that typically those that don't have it can now have it.
And it's so important of what you guys are doing, and it's messed up that you have to be in this position to do it, but it's good to see that that fight's being fought. And I think it's so important too, because there's a lot of folks that even after they gain their freedom from the prison, that physical prison, they're still locked in it. They can't get into the cannabis industry, they can't take part in it. This is happening across several states. Like, is it that the case with Corvain, where he's technically like not allowed like a position or something? Is that kind of how it works in California?
So the way that it works, well, he's federal, so
Or federal, I'm sorry,
wherever
yeah.
he lives, he's going to have to
Right.
deal with these issues, right? So number one, first and foremost, he can't be plant touching, right? No one can be plant touching while you're on federal parole or probation, right? And luckily for 40 tons, we're not a plant touching company anyways, right? We license our intellectual property out to the license holders, and we take a margin based on, like marketing or some sort of packaging fee or things like that, right? So we're set up as basically like a white labeler, right?
Right.
When you go to Costco doesn't own the milk farms, but they buy the milk wholesale, and then they put their logo on it, and then, brand it out as theirs. So that's first and foremost. But then we also have our 40 tons careers and a few other entities that aren't even cannabis entities, period, let alone white label, right? And so he's able to participate in things like that. He's our chief brand ambassador. He's more so on the advocacy side and on the marketing side of basically bringing more attention to the brand, right? Kind of like a celebrity would for a company that they're endorsing, right? But like if you wanted Corvain to like go into the field and actually select the weed, cure the weed or do things like that, he couldn't do that because of his status.
Exactly. And like, I mean, cool, yeah, you gain your freedom, great, but like you still don't have your liberty. You don't have full autonomy. And I mean, especially,
Correct.
I mean, all of you served your time more than you ever should have for this plant. But I mean, Corvain on a third strike on a life sentence, getting out,
Oh
and
yeah,
still not being allowed to touch a plant. Like, come on, man, the guy's
it's
earned his time.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous, especially with the way the laws are changing state to state. Like you would think that there's some sort of option for people like him, but there's not, and we're just going to continue to push forward and work within the constraints and parameters that we can legally, and do the things that we need to do in order to navigate. And then hopefully one day when those shackles get released, we'll have I've had a head start these last few years, to where now he can shine within an industry that he helped build,
Here's
right?
hope. Yeah, here's hoping. We're all pulling for that, and I want to talk about the business too, because obviously
Yeah,
being
that's
drug war victims and stuff, that's
I
huge.
know.
But let's get into the segue question then, actually, because I got to go
Okay.
here. What I love about you is you social equity is important, but it often feels like a buzzword. And I know you've talked about this before. You use social impact as a pretty deliberate choice over the other one. Can you talk about why you do that, and like why you think social impact is more than, or more of a priority or more of a focus than social equity is?
Yeah, so for a few reasons, right? First and foremost, social equity is a word that they put on us as a demographic of being able to qualify for a license, right? Minority, living in a certain poverty, going to jail for the plant, whatever, right? There's all these different factors, right? And
Mhm.
social equity people are more than just a social equity status, right? We do things outside of just who we are, how we're labeled, right? And so we wanted to build our brand not just on social equity, because we didn't want to get put into a category. Oh, you're a social equity brand. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. No, we're a social impact brand that believes the things that we're believing. And whether or not you give us that social equity status or not, because we did or didn't live within this area, or because we did or didn't qualified with our past charge, we're still going to do the work of social equity, right? Which is social impact, right? And so I believe, and we believe, that social impact is bigger because we're addressing the issues that are hitting our industry, and not just using a demographic or a status to be able to get into this industry. So Social impact also means, education. It means getting people careers. It means leveling people's up knowledge, right? And then also social equity is all about, is only really, it's used only really for ownership, right? Well, think about it. In every industry, how many people are owners?
Right. There's a lot more
Not
opportunities
many.
in different areas.
So why are we focused on the half of a percent of people? Right? In every industry, if there's 100 million, if there's 1 million people in that industry, only 500 of them are owners. The rest of them are all workers, from grunts to C-suites and everything in between. So we need to focus on that and get our people put into positions at every level of the game. Then
full scale preparation. Then
full scale preparation, because why should we put somebody in business simply because of a status and then they fail? Because they don't have access to capital. They don't have access to knowledge. They've never ran a retail before. They've never ran a business before. But we're giving them a company simply because of their status? No, we need to educate and teach and then provide a pathway to ownership. And we think that it starts with working your way through, mid-career professional to a C-suite, and then you can then later on become an owner. So social impact is so much more bigger and broader than social equity. And so we believe in social equity, but we don't believe that social equity is the end all be all. We believe that it's the impact that we're doing behind the social equity that is what makes us who we are.
So the equity is the component to the overall impact. You see it more so. Would that be
right?
Correct?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Like we need more minority owners. We need more people that have been impacted by the war on drug as owners, right? We do need that, but we need to create a pathway. You can't go from 1 to 2 to 20.
Yeah,
right?
We also just need more minority growers, need more minority ancillary
all
creators, all that sort of stuff. Everything touching every part of the supply. Yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, and it's entirely important. And I do think it's important too, with those equity parameters, because like in New York, I know, New York's got its own issues for whatever the case may be. But one of the things that they did put into their equity parameters was you had to have, I think, 2 years of established business success. So at least like there was some track record, so these people aren't getting thrown to the wolves like entirely. But the ownership game is still going to be tough, because we all know that the big cannibalization is going to be coming, one of these days, and a lot, whether it be the MSOs or the big brands. So, the smaller operators can succeed, but it is going to be tough. So having those additional, pathways to stay in the game and grow up, and like you said, maybe eventually become owners if they're not ready today, or just find a great career for a lifetime. There's a lot of great pathways to get in, and we just got to open them up.
There's ways to wealth other than just being an owner. Like a lot of people don't realize being an entrepreneur is not all it's cracked up to be. It's long nights, it's sleepless nights, it's up and down roller coasters, it's being broke today and broke tomorrow and broke the next day and eating top ramen, hopefully for the pendulum to swing. It's paying your people first. It's making sure that you eat last. It's making sure that, you have something that's sustainable. And people don't realize that entrepreneurship is not all the glory. There's a lot of tough nights that people have to go through, and everyone doesn't realize that entrepreneurship is not easy. So it's a beautiful thing, right, if you could succeed at it, but like I don't want to tell this false narrative that like as soon as you open up a business you're going to be this millionaire, because it just doesn't work like that. And so I think through our education and me failing forward, I call it failing forward when you are an entrepreneur and then you fail at something, but you keep getting back up and you keep trying. So as you fail forward, you start to realize that there's certain things that you just need to do. Like just because you got money doesn't mean you're qualified to go open up, let's say, a restaurant. You should go work as a busboy. You should go work as a cook. You should go work as a cashier. You should go work as a human resources person, so you can learn the game and do it at a restaurant.
Yeah, especially. Oh, sorry, cut you off. Go on.
Sorry, and then take that experience and then go open up your company.
Exactly, man. Yeah, it's crazy how many people have been like, I don't know how to source weed, I don't know how to grow weed, I don't even know how to trim weed, but I want to open up a dispensary. And it's like, what the hell are you setting yourself up for, man? Like, maybe one or two of you could replicate that success, but like most of you are about to just lose your shirt or like not even qualify for a license and get laughed out of the process.
Right. And that's why we bring 40 tons careers to the forefront, is because we want to teach those things. We have education components, workshops, speakers, networking, so that those are the types of things that we can teach our people at scale. Then we can level up and level up and level up. Right. And that's how we
Yeah.
do it.
How can people get in touch with you guys if they want to, attend or even help, get the platform growing? How can they get in touch with you guys?
So for on the career side, they can go to 40tonscareers.com. We have a new website, thanks to Puff Creative. They put together a really nice website for us, and that has all the information. Our event on June 19th in Chicago is on Eventbrite, which you can also get to from 40 Tons Careers. Every single social media handle is 40 Tons Brand. So you can follow us on, from LinkedIn to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9 yards is where you can find us, or just send me an email at anthony@40tons.co, not .com, but .co. And we'll respond. We're a boots on the ground, very small but mighty company. We're doing the best that we can amongst the tumultuous industry. We make mistakes, but at the same time too, we want to learn from those mistakes and try to continue to pay it forward and to help. And, that's kind of where we stand and where we found our niche.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And this episode might be dropping after the 19th, so just in case, stay in touch with other 40 Tons events. They're doing some great work. And,
Yes.
part of their great work, too, is seeing the brand expansion. Like you said, it's not easy. You guys been putting in the long hours, busting your asses day in, day out. But the fruits of your labor look like it's starting to pay off a little bit. How many
Yeah.
states are you guys in nowadays?
So right now we're in California. We were in Missouri. We had a deal in Missouri that was just kind of like a one and done deal.
Mm,
And we completed that deal. So we're very thankful for that. That was with Good Day Farm. We're very thankful for what they did for us. And we're actually about to be in New York. Our packaging is already at
nice.
the facility in New York. We're just waiting on the sourcing, which we should be ready to go within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll be in New York. And then we're
Nice.
working on some other states at the moment that we're trying to lock in. We're looking heavily at Maryland. We're looking still heavily in Missouri. And so there's a couple of other opportunities, but New York and LA, or excuse me, California are the two states for right now. You can find us on Ease. We just got placed onto the Ease platform, so we're super thankful for the
Nice.
people over at Ease. And yeah, we're hustling, man. This conference is kind of taking us around the country. The next one will be in New York, spring 2024. So we would love to get, sponsors, exhibitors, job seekers, volunteers, everybody involved for that one. So if you hear this in July, just know we're going to be coming to New York in the spring of 2024, and you guys can get involved in that.
Yeah, man, be on the lookout. 40 Tons, doing great work. And also, I've got to add one of the more comfortable t-shirts I've had too. It's a good message with the Justice for Corvain and also a very comfortable shirt. So like, pick up their stuff. Definitely excited to see you guys dropping in New York. Really excited for that, Anthony. You guys are operating though in two of the tougher markets, California and now getting into New York. What are your experiences like in those markets? We always hear the horror stories out of being an operator in California. How are things been for you guys, and how
Man,
you
it's
weather the
tough.
storm?
It's tough. It's tough, right? The first people that we came into this game with, didn't really do us the justice that we needed. And so we needed to kind of level up. And then we leveled up to, most recently with, Herbal. And then, for those of you that know Herbal, went through what they went through, and they're one of the biggest distributors, right? So it's not even a matter of like individual business companies' etiquettes of why they succeed or don't. It's the macro industry that has chokeholded cannabis. And so companies like Herbal are failing, right? Companies like the big MSOs are pulling out of California and West Coast operations. That's
Yeah,
because the noose of compliance and taxation is so heavy that people can't even survive, even these big companies. And so it's been challenging. But where I think that we can win, and I think that we have an opportunity, and where other companies have an opportunity, is being nimble, right?
hmm,
Being able to be nimble, being able to move fast, not doing these big batches, starting off small, working with these retailers that are paying their bills, and really, really fine tuning your product and getting it to a good price point, as well as servicing the retailers that are selling your products so that your stuff sells off the shelf. So it's like, it's tough, man. It's challenging. You got supply chain issues, you've got macroeconomic issues, you've got competition, you've got a ridiculous taxation issue. So it's like a perfect storm on why cannabis is not succeeding. And in
Yeah.
California, we just did it wrong, and unfortunately it is what it is, but we're just going to keep pushing and keep figuring it out. And if we hit a brick wall, we'll dust ourselves off and
Pivot.
go around to the next one and pivot to the next one.
I mean, that is the spirit of legacy, whether, they had to like it or not, it was adapting because, the laws, the crackdowns, the constant threat. So like, I hate saying it, but like, it seems like, you guys were the ones that mentally capable to withstand all this crap that you guys have been thrown at.
Oh, I mean, back in the day, we would lose because you'd get robbed. There was no
Right.
recourse there, right? Or you would get lose because they would get confiscated by the law. There's no recourse there. You know what I mean? So you learn to build ingenuity into your systems, and you get resolved that way. And I think also too, like just when you grow up poor and you grow up not having anything, you figure out how to make $1 out of 15 cents. And so you have this grit about you. And I think companies that have that grit and have that perseverance and have that, that ability to just, pivot when they need to are the ones that are going to survive.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, there are certainly companies that are doing a good job of including that legacy market mentality and bringing those folks from that market and bringing in
Sure.
that expertise. But it feels like a lot of folks aren't or just aren't utilizing it correctly. And, I feel like it's such a shortcoming in the industry. Like you said, even if regulations were bad, I feel like if you had some folks in the legacy market, more so in these companies, actually integrating and wanting to work with them, there would be so much more, success. But I don't know. Does it seem like there's a reluctance from major cannabis companies to try to work with the legacy market, or what's kind of like? Do you agree with that? I guess would be kind of a
Yeah,
starting point.
that's a really good point. It's tough to pinpoint legacy, right? Like, what does legacy mean, right?
Right.
Does legacy just mean that you were in the industry before it was legal, or does legacy mean like you went to jail, or does legacy mean like you were in the streets, or does legacy mean, right? So there's all these different
Some
meanings of
nuance.
legacy, right? There's nuance, right? I don't think that the big corporate cannabis companies are necessarily making it a priority to exclude people, but it's also about the availability of these legacy people wanting to take jobs. It's
Right.
both, right? So it's like, I think that there's just a disconnect between corporate cannabis and legacy cannabis, and we have to figure out why. And I don't
Right.
know if it's because the corporate people just aren't accepting of it, or it's because the legacy people don't want to deal with corporate because of all the crap that's been going on, and they'd rather just stay in the legacy, right? I don't know that answer, but I do know that, like, I think to your point, that the legacy people, meaning the people that have been in this for a while, that have been doing these things, that have experienced the hardships, have a competitive advantage and can really help these corporate companies succeed, especially on like the marketing side and like on the
Right.
curation side.
Yeah, like the people who've worked with the Mylar bags forever, they know how it actually works with the community. And like, sure, there's some regulations that prevent some of this stuff being used, but like you said, these are creative, adaptive folks. Like they know how to create it. They're still creating it. It's not like it's going away. Like it
It's
always
tough,
amazes me.
man. It's really
Yeah.
tough because you got, it's just that this is the only industry in the world that is half in and half out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out in terms of like legality and macroeconomic conditions and government and all the taxation. It's like we don't know what we are. And so we're
Yeah.
trying to all navigate in a space that is quasi legal but not quite. And some people are kept out and some people are allowed in, and you got
And
all this,
meanwhile,
prohibition, exactly, all this prohibition. And so it's really tough to pinpoint where the issue lies. But I mean, just at the core of what you're saying, I think if we incorporated more legacy people, I think that could help. I also think that like there needs to be better systems of regulation and taxation across the board,
right.
and not
Yeah.
being so fragmented from city to city and state to state and this and that. Like, it should be a universal policy. Whether or not you sell cigarettes in Seattle is the same as when you sell it in North Carolina, right? There needs to be a regulation the way alcohol is regulated, right? Or any type of product that has regulation. It needs to be the same everywhere,
Yeah. This
right? It
piecemeal
can't
approach
be.
really is. Oh, sorry.
No, go
No,
ahead. The Keystone
I
approach
was
is what?
no, I was going to agree with you there. You know, especially when you get through like the municipal laws, like California, it seems like the opt out laws really kind of killed it. They created those cannabis deserts, and then they're like, how is the underground market thriving? It's like, well, you allowed like the local markets to kill any sort of participation. Like, do you think like like what you were saying, the local regulations and the opt outs, like how crucial were they to like kind of creating the state that California's in right now?
They're incredibly crucial because they're the end all be all of whether or not you're going to operate or not.
Yeah,
Right.
and now
So
we're seeing that in New York now too, and it's starting to concern me.
you can't run an we are too decentralized. Decentralization is wonderful. Like you need like decentralized in a sense, but you can't have all of your rules decentralized, but then try to manage it in a centralized manner. Right? You have to. It either is 1,000% decentralized in every facet of it, meaning the like there's no rules basically, or you have to centralize it and create a standard SOP across the board. It can't just be so fragmented because there's no way to survive that way. You cross over a city line and you're paying X amount of percentage more because you're
It's nuts.
2,000 feet away. That's ridiculous. Or a state. Now you're breaking the law if you're crossing state lines. It's like, it can't be like that. We have to like really, really create a macro system that works, and it works no matter where you're at. And that's not easy to do. I'm not saying that it's just the flip of a switch, but the way that we're doing it now has caused it so tough. And it's why you got companies like Herbal shutting down, and Herbal was a phenomenal company. Like the people over there are good human beings. They've done everything that they could to survive. They're not greedy. They're not poachers. And the media has made it out like they are. And I know firsthand because when I say I mean 40 Tons, no disrespect, but we kind of got the shit end of the stick from Herbal because of what they've been going through. But I would never talk bad about them because they tried to help us.
Hmm.
So it wasn't due to the fact that they were evil people. It was due to the fact that the conditions choked them out, which means charitable arms like 40 Tons. What's the first thing to get cut when money gets cut? Marketing,
Right.
charitable functions, right?
The social responsibility efforts.
Right. That's not because you're evil. That's not because we don't like social responsibility efforts. No, it's because you're choked out. Right. And they built a model for legalization and they were just too soon. They were too early. And
Yeah.
when you got a third of your retail establishments not paying their bills, you got these massive companies that owe millions of dollars to them that aren't paying their bills. How do you survive?
Yeah, and it's happening across the board too. It's everywhere in cannabis. I've seen clients in the tech space, everything. And as soon as bad times happens, those social responsibility efforts are the first things to go. And
And now they're evil because of it. They
yeah,
don't care. Like they're but that's not true.
No, and it's tough. It's really tough because it is a perspective. Because when you say you cut DEI efforts, people immediately are going to say like that's bad. And I think in a lot of ways it is. But then you're also like I think especially when the company has shareholders, they kind of have to be obligated to making those a profit. They're obligated to that. So it really becomes a moral versus business conundrum. And I don't have a right answer. That's why I stay out of that price. That's
you nailed it. You nailed it. Business and morality does not always mix. And the sooner that people understand that, the more that they can navigate the space. And this is where a business owner comes in. This is why when I talk about equity, it's not just about a demographic. It's about really understanding business. Because what do you do when you're drowning? You remove the weight that's pulling you under.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're a bad person? No, you're just preventing yourself from drowning, because eventually the whole ship is going to go down if you don't start doing those things. And what you do, as long as you have the intention and the morality of when you are floating again, you start putting in those efforts, and that's what you do. And, not to talk about Herbal only because they're in the news right now, but because they're a perfect example of being caught by the perfect storm and then dealing with it from all angles. And that's what this industry is dealing with. This is what we are dealing with as a whole, and why we need change, why we need the proper regulation, why we need the proper taxation, and why we need fairness across the board, is because you can't be having companies like that fail at scale, right?
Yeah.
This industry is going to die if all the big companies keep failing at scale like this.
Yeah, it's going to stop the industry from growing, that's for sure. And, you know, and I will say, going back to that though, with, you know, a lot of the companies, when they scale back that work and are being perceived as, you know, evil or immoral or anything like that, I think it also goes down to communication, because I think, like you said, if you showed transparency, like what you're saying, you know, like kind of basically laying it out like what you did, I feel like that would work so much more. I see so many press releases either being free from the company or the PR where they're like, you know, we're just scaling back, or like, you know, it'll just come out in an earnings report and be like, you know, we saved by cutting down our workforce. And people get mad when they see like, oh, you just fired a bunch of people or whatever. But like, if you explain to people why, I mean, you're still going to have people upset that you cut efforts, especially when it's social impact stuff. But like, I don't know, maybe someone might understand a little bit more if you like showed them what the, you know, the harsh reality is of being a, you know, especially trying to be an ethical business.
I think communication is one of the most important pillars of all business, is having that proper communication. Even from the very sense of like just communicating what you're doing and not being secretive, right? Like, you shouldn't have to find out that you lost your job because of a press release, or you shouldn't have to find out that, you know what I mean? Like, there should be that communication that goes on amongst, you know, the executives down to the people below them. And that's important. And I think that, you know, how you position yourself, you know, to the forward facing to the world is also really important. And so, you know, I think Herbal did actually a good job at that. Like, Mike was always trying to, you know, he sent out messages. He was doing the things that he could do, you know, to try to save, you know, but at the same time too, when you're drowning, you got to cut, and someone's going to get it. And if you don't want the whole ship to go down, then you're going to have to like throw stuff off overboard, right? That's the nature of the beast. And people don't get that. And I get it. I don't want to be the guy that gets thrown off board. It's a lot easier said than done. What do you do when you're the guy that's getting tossed off board? Of course, I get it. But I've been both. I've been the guy tossing off board, and I've been the guy getting tossed. So I understand from both ways. Like,
it's not good either way.
It's a lose-lose situation, and you do the best that you can so that you could live to fight another day. Because it's about living. It's about living. There's no honor in death. There's no honor in dying, right? You fight so that you can live another day. And if you live another day, then that's the victory. And sometimes stuff happens, man. And I would end homelessness if I could. But if it means that I have to be homeless because I'm doing something to try to end the homelessness, then who's really winning?
Yeah, it's a tough conundrum. It's not as clear cut as a lot of.
It's a conundrum. It's not simple, and it's not easy. And heavy, the man who holds the crown.
Yeah, and I think that's what you like. It goes back to is just really treating your employees with ethics and being transparent to the public and letting them know. And you know, harsh moments happen, and again, it's not meaning everyone is going to understand it, but at the end of the day, if you come with honesty and transparency, it's the best case. Which I don't know how often that happens in cannabis brands these days with honesty and transparency, but you know, it would be nice to see more of that, because then maybe when these bad things happen and we're seeing mass scale backs, at least. Right. You know, there'd be at least some empathy or something like that, or understanding.
And conversations, right? Because sometimes, you know, side A and side B will disagree, but you only hear from side B's story, right? Or you only hear from side A's story. It's about having that dialogue publicly so that we can really hash out these issues. I've seen that as well, where you get accused of something that just isn't facts, but because this person's not talking about it and this person's doing the accusing, everyone believes this person or entity or company versus what's really going on over here. And so it's just communication. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to bring it home here in the last few minutes and kind of talk about, you know, where you guys are headed next. What's up for 40 Tons? Where are you guys looking to go? What should we be on the lookout for?
That's a great segment. Well, first and foremost, you know, we always want to expand our CPG brand. You know, we're looking for opportunities to partner with companies that can help take us there. You know, multi-state folks that can, you know, really allow for our brand to thrive. We already have a brand that's ready to go. We have all the assets. We have all the SOPs. We have everything. The only thing that we need help with is the supply chain within each market. And so if we can find those right supply chain markers, we're open to licensing deals. That's first. Second, 40 Tons Careers is our way of helping the community, but also providing real opportunity for folks. And so, we host these career conferences all over the country. They're called the Level Up Career Conferences. We got one that just happened, June 19th. I know this is airing in July, but we're going to be doing more throughout the years, and we're going to be doing them throughout different cities. So if you're a company that wants us to bring our conference to your state, send us a message. We're open to these opportunities. Our goal is to hire 40 tons of minority and system impacted folks by 2026. And that's 80,000 people, right? So we want to get 80,000 people jobs, expungements, careers, by 2026. And so I think we can do that with the help of these companies out there.
All right. Yeah. And if anybody wants to follow you, where should we be following you guys on social media?
At 40 Tons Brand is our handle across all handles. We also have a new page called 40 Tons Careers, which is everything to do with careers that's non-cannabis. And you can find us at 40tons.co and then 40tonscareers.com. And yeah, send me an email, anthony@40tons.co. I always respond. And if you see Corvain or L'Oreal, please send them a message. And we're open to different opportunities, collaborations, partnerships. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, be sure to check out 40 Tons, check out Anthony's story, check out Corvain's, L'Oreal's story. We just scratched the surface on so much, I feel like. Anthony, I appreciate you taking the time. We'll definitely have you back on the show again, man. And good luck on the conferences, and hopefully we can link up in New York and get some packaging real soon when you guys drop in those stores.
100%. Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks as always.
All right. Peace and love.